Before we start, kindly subscribe to my channel and tell me, where in the universe are you watching from? Ryan Cole stood in the Grand War Hall of the Selvar Empire, feeling very, very small. It wasn't just the towering obsidian pillars or the crimson banners lined with alien battle symbols. It was the 9-foot-tall queen standing in front of him, arms crossed, eyes burning with amusement. Azuraves, the undefeated warrior queen of the Selvar, studied him like a scientist examining a strange insect. Her long midnight blue hair was braided in intricate warrior patterns, and her dark golden skin gleamed under the torchlight. She wore a form-fitting battle suit made of scaled armor, each plate etched with the symbols of her past victories. Ryan, a human diplomat with a talent for getting into trouble, adjusted the collar of his Earth-issued uniform and cleared his throat. "So, just to clarify," he began, "you're saying that humans are, what was the word? Weak?" Azuraves smirked, flashing sharp, pearly white teeth. "I did not say weak, little diplomat," she corrected, her voice rich with confidence. "I said fragile. Your kind reproduces through inefficient means, and your offspring take far too long to reach maturity. In battle, your species would vanish within generations." The crowd of Selvar warriors laughed, their deep voices rumbling through the hall. Ryan, however, just raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and how exactly do Selvar reproduce? That's so much better." Azuraves stepped closer, towering over him like a statue of an ancient goddess. "Through strength," she said, flexing the clawed hand. "Only the strongest warriors may take mates, and our children are born ready to fight. They are superior in every way." Ryan sighed and shook his head. "See, this is why aliens never get invited to Earth family barbecues." The warriors stopped laughing, confused by his words. Azuraves narrowed her golden eyes. "Explain." Ryan grinned. "If your people are so strong, then why not prove it? If strength is everything, and we humans are so fragile, you shouldn't mind a little challenge, right?" A flicker of curiosity crossed Azuraves's face. "What are you suggesting, human?" Ryan pulled off his diplomatic jacket and rolled up his sleeves. "A simple test. One hit. If I can land a solid strike on you, just one, you admit humans aren't so weak after all." The warriors gasped. Some looked at Ryan like he had just insulted their ancestors. Azuraves stared at him for a long moment. Then, to his surprise, she laughed. "Very well, human," she said, stepping onto the stone combat platform at the center of the hall. "One strike. But if you fail, you will bow before me and admit the inferiority of your species." Ryan grinned, stepping onto the platform. "Deal. But if I win, you take back everything you said about humans being fragile." The warriors cheered as the challenge was accepted. A deep gong echoed through the chamber, signaling the start of the match. Azuraves moved like a force of nature, her muscles rippling beneath her armor. Ryan knew brute strength wouldn't work. He had to be fast, unpredictable. She lunged at him. Ryan ducked, rolled, and barely avoided her crushing strike. He wasn't a fighter, but he was quick, and he had studied enough alien martial arts to know that Selvar warriors relied on overwhelming force. He sidestepped another attack, using his smaller size to his advantage. He dropped low, pivoted, and at the perfect moment, he struck. His palm connected with the back of Azuraves' knee, where her armor was thinnest. With her weight shifting forward, she lost her balance for just a second, enough for Ryan to twist and shove her forward. The queen stumbled. The hall went silent. Ryan froze. Azuraves turned slowly, golden eyes wide with shock. No one had ever made her stumble in battle. No one. A moment passed, then another. Then, to Ryan's complete horror, she smiled. "You have won," she said, stepping closer, her gaze unreadable. "And by the laws of my people, a warrior who bests another in combat is entitled to claim them as a mate." Ryan blinked. "Wait. What?" Azuraves leaned down, her smirk turning predatory. "Congratulations, Ryan Cole. You are now my husband." Ryan stared. The warriors roared in approval. His diplomatic mission had just taken a very unexpected turn. Ryan Cole sat frozen on the stone combat platform, trying to process what had just happened. The massive war hall echoed with the cheers of the Selvar warriors, their excitement shaking the air. Married? He had just won a fight, not signed a wedding contract. Ryan forced a laugh, raising a hand as if to pause the moment. Whoa, hold on. I think we skipped a few steps here. Where I'm from, marriage comes after at least a few dates. Maybe some dinner, a movie. Hexiraves tilted her head, her midnight blue braids swaying. Are human courtship rituals so complex? In the Selvar Empire, strength decides everything. You have bested me, which means you are worthy. Ryan looked around at the cheering warriors. They were all grinning, clapping each other on the back, as if this was the best entertainment they'd had in years. Okay, let's pretend I accept this for a second, Ryan said, rubbing his forehead. What does being married to the queen even mean? Hexiraves' golden eyes gleamed. It means you stand at my side, rule with me, and if the gods are generous, she placed a clawed hand over her toned stomach. One day, we shall have a strong heir. Ryan nearly choked on air. Hair. Whoa, let's slow down. I just met you. Hexiraves arched an elegant brow. And yet, you already challenge me. You fight with cleverness instead of brute strength. That is the kind of mate I need. Ryan ran a hand through his messy brown hair. His brain was working overtime, searching for an escape. Look, Syra, you're impressive. Really, but don't you think this is a little fast? Hexiraves smirked, stepping closer. Your words say no, yet your heart beats fast. Ryan groaned. That's because I almost died 5 times today, not because I want to settle down and raise little warrior babies. The warriors laughed again, clearly enjoying his struggle. Hexiraves leaned in, her height making him feel even smaller. Would you rather I choose another? There are many warriors who would gladly take your place. Ryan hesitated. His diplomatic training screamed at him to think strategically. If he rejected her outright, would she see it as an insult? Would the warriors turn against him? More importantly, did he really want some other alien brute taking his place? Ryan sighed, straightening his shoulders. All right, fine. I'll go along with this, for now, but I need time to adjust. Hexiraves studied him, then nodded. Very well, I will allow you time, but do not mistake patience for weakness, human. She turned to the warriors and raised a hand. Tonight, we celebrate. My mate has proven himself, and by our laws, he is now one of us. The hall erupted in cheers. Ryan exhaled. Great, a wedding party with a bunch of 7-foot-tall warriors. What could go wrong? As the warriors began their celebration feast, Hexiraves placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder and guided him toward the royal chamber. Her touch was firm, confident, possessive. Ryan gulped. His diplomatic mission had just gotten a lot more complicated. Ryan sat at the long stone table in the royal feast hall, surrounded by towering Selvar warriors. The air was thick with the scent of roasted meat and exotic spices, and the walls trembled with laughter and the clash of drinking horns. He should have been relaxing, celebrating his survival. Instead, he felt like a cornered animal. Across from him, Hexiraves sat with the grace of a battle-hardened queen, her golden eyes flickering as she studied him. She had barely touched her food, seemingly more interested in watching him struggle with the overwhelming feast. You do not eat much, she finally said. Does human food differ so greatly? Ryan picked up a mysterious chunk of meat, eyeing it suspiciously. Let's just say I like knowing what animal I'm eating before I take a bite. Zyra smirked. It is fire lizard, a great delicacy. Ryan sighed. You know, that doesn't actually make it better. A few warriors laughed, amused by his hesitation. One slapped Ryan on the back, hard enough to almost knock the air from his lungs. A good mate for the queen. A warrior and a jester. Ryan coughed, glaring at the grinning alien. Glad I can entertain. But beneath his frustration, he couldn't deny something strange was happening. The warriors, once distant and intimidating, were starting to accept him. And then there was Kyra. She leaned forward, resting her elbow on the table, her golden eyes filled with curiosity. Tell me, Ryan of Earth, do all humans resist power, or is it just you? Ryan wiped his hands on a napkin, meeting her gaze. Depends. Some people love power. Some want freedom. Me, I prefer not waking up to sudden life-altering surprises. Zyra chuckled. Then the gods must enjoy testing you. Ryan sighed. Yeah, they have a twisted sense of humor. A loud drumming sound cut through the feast, and the warriors immediately straightened, their chatter dying down. Zyra stood, her dark blue cloak flowing behind her. It is time for the bonding ritual. Ryan blinked. The what now? She turned to him, expression unreadable. You are my mate. To truly claim that title, you must be accepted by the Elder Council. It is tradition. Ryan groaned. Of course it is. Two warriors approached, gripping his arms, not roughly, but firm enough to show they wouldn't take no for an answer. Zyra watched him carefully. Are you afraid? Ryan straightened his shoulders, forcing a grin. Afraid? No. Deeply, deeply concerned. Absolutely. Zyra's lips curled into a small, approving smile before she turned, leading him through the massive doors. The Elder Council chamber was nothing like Ryan expected. Instead of a dark, shadowy courtroom, it was open to the stars, a massive circular platform with glowing blue lines carved into the stone. The air hummed with some kind of ancient energy, sending chills down his spine. At the center stood 5 elders, their horned heads and silver robes making them look even more intimidating than the warriors. Zyra stood beside him, her tone formal. This is my chosen mate. He has fought. He has endured. Now he shall be judged. One elder, an aged Excelver with piercing violet eyes, stepped forward. Ryan Cole of Earth, do you stand beside our queen willingly? Ryan hesitated for half a second before responding. I stand here because fate, or some cosmic joke, put me in this situation. But I don't back down, so yeah, I'm standing beside her. A long pause. Then, to Ryan's shock, the elder smiled. He has spirit. Good. Zyra glanced at him, her expression unreadable, but for a moment, just a moment, her fingers brushed against his. Ryan's heart skipped a beat. Maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be so bad after all. The elder's approval should have been the end of the ceremony, but of course, nothing on this planet was that simple. Ryan barely had a moment to process the elder's words before a deep booming voice echoed through the chamber. I challenge the human. Ryan turned sharply. A massive Gezelvar warrior stepped forward from the crowd. His skin was a darker shade of blue, his horns long and curved, and his golden eyes filled with hostility. Zyra's expression hardened. General Varzok, this is not necessary. Varzok ignored her, staring only at Ryan. It is tradition. A mate must prove himself worthy before the clan. If he cannot fight, he does not deserve the queen. Ryan let out a long breath. You guys really love your prove-yourself traditions, huh? Zyra shot Varzok a cold look. You only seek to humiliate him. Varzok grinned. If he is unworthy, then so be it. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. Okay, let me guess. There's no option where I just say, no thanks, and go have a drink instead. The warriors laughed at his sarcasm, but Varzok remained serious. Ryan sighed. Didn't think so. Zyra turned to him, her golden eyes searching his face. You do not have to do this. Ryan gave her a small smirk. And miss out on another crazy, potentially life-threatening experience? Wouldn't want to break the streak. Zyra let out a soft breath, something between amusement and concern. Very well, she said. Choose your weapon. Ryan looked at the selection presented. Massive swords, curved blades, spiked gauntlets. Everything looked way too heavy for him. Then, in the corner, he spotted something else. A long combat staff, lightweight but strong. He grabbed it and twirled it in his hands. I'll take this one. Varzok grinned cruelly as he chose a massive battle axe. A stick. You insult me. Ryan exhaled, rolling his shoulders. Nah, I just know my strengths. The warriors formed a circle around them. The elder raised his hand. Begin. Varzok charged immediately, swinging his axe down in a crushing blow. Ryan barely dodged, rolling to the side as the axe slammed into the ground, sending dust flying. Ryan darted around him, using his smaller size to his advantage. He struck Varzok's side with the staff. Quick, precise hits, before leaping back out of reach. The warriors murmured in surprise. Varzok growled, "You run like a coward." Ryan smirked. "I call it strategy." Varzok swung again, but this time, Ryan was ready. He ducked, then jammed the staff behind the warrior's knee, causing him to stumble. The second he lost balance, Ryan swept his legs out from under him. The giant warrior hit the ground hard. A stunned silence followed. Ryan stood over him, flipping the staff in his hand. "Still think it's just a stick?" Varzok's eyes blazed with fury, but he didn't move. Slowly, he clenched his jaw and bowed his head in reluctant respect. The warriors erupted into cheers and laughter, slamming their fists against their chests. Ryan turned to Xyra, breathless. "So, do I get a prize, or do I have to fight another guy first?" Xyra stepped closer, eyes glowing with something he couldn't quite place. Then, in front of everyone, she grabbed his collar and pulled him into a kiss. It was quick, but fierce, and when she pulled away, she smirked. "You win." Ryan blinked. "Okay, yeah, I'm cool with this tradition." The warriors roared in approval, and Ryan knew one thing for sure. His life would never be boring again. Ryan had fought in bar brawls before, dodged angry exes, and even once outran a debt collector on Mars, but nothing compared to standing in the center of an alien warrior circle, kissing their queen while 100 warriors watched. He pulled back slightly, his heart racing. Xyra smirked at him, her golden eyes glowing with approval. "Well fought, Ryan," she murmured. He swallowed, trying to stay cool. "Yeah, I aim to impress." The warriors around them were still cheering, stomping, shouting his name. Even Varzok, the massive warrior he had just defeated, had joined in, though his face was still locked in a reluctant scowl. Then the elder raised his hand, and silence fell over the gathering. "Ryan," the elder said, his voice deep and commanding, "you have proven your strength, your wit, and your spirit. The clan accepts you." Ryan exhaled, relieved. "Great. Does that come with a badge or a membership card?" Xyra nudged his ribs, though he caught a hint of a smile at the corner of her lips. The elder continued, "But there is one more thing." Ryan tensed. Of course there was. "Xyra is not just any warrior. She is our queen. A mate must be chosen with the approval of the council. And most importantly," the elder turned to Xyra, "it is her choice." A hush spread over the crowd. Xyra stepped forward, standing tall in her dark warrior armor. She looked at Ryan for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Ryan felt the weight of 100 alien stares on him. His mouth suddenly felt very dry. She could still refuse. Maybe he was too different. Maybe he wasn't strong enough in their eyes. Maybe this whole thing was a terrible mistake. Xyra reached out and took his hand. The warriors roared in approval. Ryan barely had time to process before Xyra pulled him in again, kissing him harder this time. It was firm, decisive, leaving no doubt. When she pulled back, her golden eyes burned with certainty. "I choose him." The cheers were deafening. Ryan, still a little dazed, let out a breathy laugh. "Okay, wow, I'm starting to like these traditions." Xyra gave him a rare soft smile before turning back to the elder. "It is done." The elder nodded, then let the celebration begin. A very alien party. The warriors moved fast. Tables of food appeared, bonfires were lit, and the entire chamber transformed into a massive feast hall. The energy was wild and electric. Warriors slammed drinks together, told battle stories, and even engaged in friendly wrestling matches right in the middle of the party. Ryan sat beside Xyra at the head of the table, trying not to look overwhelmed. "So," he said, picking up a drink, "what exactly am I drinking?" Xyra smirked. "You are brave enough to fight a warrior, but not brave enough to taste our wine." Ryan sighed. "Fair point." He took a sip, sweet, spicy, and way too strong. His throat burned, and he coughed. Xyra chuckled. "You will adjust." Ryan set the cup down. "Yeah, after I grow a second liver." A few warriors approached, offering congratulatory slaps on the back, which nearly knocked him off his seat. You are one of us now, Ryan, Varzok finally said, crossing his arms, even if you are small. Ryan grinned. Small. I just took you down in front of everyone. The warriors laughed, and Varzok gave a gruff nod. Perhaps you are not so weak after all. Ryan looked at Syra, who was watching him closely. For the first time, he realized this was real. He wasn't just a guest anymore. He was part of something bigger. And maybe, just maybe, he liked it. Ryan had barely recovered from the night's celebration when he woke up to absolute chaos. He blinked, his head pounding slightly from the alien wine. Loud voices echoed through the stone corridors outside his chamber, and the scent of something burning filled the air. Zara was already up, standing by the window, her golden eyes narrowed. She looked tense. Ryan sat up, rubbing his face. Okay, what fresh disaster is this? Zyra turned to him, her expression unreadable. The council has called for an emergency meeting. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Right, that sounds bad. She hesitated, just for a second, and that worried him more than the shouting outside. Zyra was never uncertain, never hesitant. Sarah, he said slowly, what aren't you telling me? She let out a slow breath. There is something you must know before we go. Ryan sat up fully now, his instincts buzzing. Okay, I'm listening. She turned to face him, crossing her arms over her armored chest. Last night was not just a warrior's celebration, it was also a union ceremony. Ryan frowned. A what now? Zyra tilted her head. We are bonded now, officially. Ryan stared at her. His brain seemed to stall for a full 5 seconds. Wait, are you telling me we actually got married last night? Zyra nodded. By my people's traditions, yes. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. Wow, that's fast. Zyra smirked. You fought for it. Did you not mean to win? Ryan let out a breathy laugh, still processing. I mean, I like you, Kyra, a lot, but back on Earth, people usually take a little more time before. Zyra stepped closer, her voice softer now. Ryan, you are mine. And I am yours. Ryan met her gaze, his heart beating faster. He had never been anyone's anything before, but with Zyra, it felt right. He exhaled. Okay, all right, I'm in. Her lips twitched in approval, but the moment was short-lived as another loud knock echoed through the chamber. Zyra straightened. Come. A warrior entered, his expression grim. My queen, the council awaits. The matter is urgent. Zyra nodded. We will be there shortly. Ryan sighed, getting to his feet. Something tells me this isn't a surprise honeymoon. The council's demand. The grand hall was full when they arrived. Dozens of armored warriors, elders in long robes, and military leaders stood in tense groups, all murmuring to one another. At the front, the High Elder stood, his face stern. Queen Zyra, he said, you bring your human with you. Zyra lifted her chin. Ryan is my chosen mate. He has earned his place here. Murmurs spread through the hall. Some of the warriors nodded in agreement, but others looked unconvinced. The High Elder raised a hand for silence. Then he turned his sharp gaze toward Ryan. Human, do you know why we have gathered? Ryan crossed his arms. Something tells me it's not to throw us another party. A few warriors chuckled, but the elder's expression didn't change. There is a matter of great importance. A message was received from the outer colonies. Zyra tensed beside him. What message? The elder's voice was grave. An unknown force has been attacking our border worlds, and they have made a specific demand. Ryan's stomach tightened. Let me guess. They want Zyra. The elder nodded. They claim she carries something valuable, something they want. Ryan's heart slammed against his ribs. Zyra stiffened. For the first time since he had met her, she looked truly shaken. Ryan turned to her, his voice low. Zyra, what exactly are they after? She hesitated. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, Our child. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. Our child. His heart pounded as he turned to Zyra. Her golden eyes, usually so fierce, were clouded with something he had never seen before. Uncertainty. The council chamber was silent, all eyes locked on them. The High Elder's voice was calm but sharp. Is this true, Queen Zyra? You carry a human hybrid. Zyra clenched her fists at her sides. It is true. A wave of murmurs spread across the room. Some warriors looked shocked. Others exchanged wary glances. Ryan's mind raced. They hadn't even talked about this. Was this why she had looked so tense that morning? Why she wanted to tell him something before the meeting? A child. Their child. His pulse quickened. He barely had time to process the thought before the High Elder spoke again. Then we are all in danger. Ryan snapped back to attention. Whoa, hold on. Danger? From who? The Elder's expression darkened. The attackers call themselves the Draxian Dominion. They are ancient enemies of our people. They have never sought peace, only conquest. A tall warrior stepped forward, his face etched with battle scars. They demand we surrender the queen and her unborn here. Ryan's jaw tightened. His protective instincts roared to life. Like hell, that's happening. Zyra's voice was cold as steel. I will not bow to their demands. The High Elder nodded. Then we must prepare for war. A private moment. The meeting stretched for hours. Tense debates, battle strategies. Everyone knew that war was coming, but no one knew how soon. When it was finally over, Zyra led Ryan back to their private quarters. She didn't speak until the doors sealed behind them. Then she turned to him, her expression unreadable. You are quiet, she said. Ryan exhaled. I'm just trying to wrap my head around all of this. Zyra nodded, stepping closer. I wanted to tell you sooner. Ryan looked into her eyes. Yeah, I kind of wish you had. He let out a breath and ran a hand through his hair. But I get it. You didn't know how I'd react. Zyra hesitated, then reached out, placing a hand on his chest. I feared you would see it as a burden. Ryan covered her hand with his. Zyra, this is our child. No way am I walking away from that. Something in her gaze softened. Relief. Ryan smirked. Although I have to admit, I didn't exactly picture my first kid being the center of an intergalactic war. Zyra let out a small laugh, shaking her head. Nor did I. A rare moment of tenderness passed between them. Ryan lifted his hand and brushed a strand of silver hair from her face. We'll get through this, he said, together. Zyra's gaze locked onto his, and for the first time, she allowed herself to lean into his warmth. For once, the warrior queen let her guard down, and Ryan knew, whatever happened next, he wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for their family. The sky above the capital city burned with streaks of fire as enemy warships broke through the planet's upper atmosphere. The Draxian Dominion had arrived. Ryan stood on the fortress balcony, watching the chaos unfold. Zyra, now clad in battle armor, adjusted the grip on her energy spear. Her golden eyes burned with fury. Their forces are larger than expected, she muttered. Ryan smirked, cracking his knuckles. Doesn't matter. They picked the wrong family to mess with. Zyra's warriors lined the city walls, their weapons glowing in the dim red light. The war horns blared, signaling the final stand. The first strike. The enemy ships descended like dark specters, unloading waves of monstrous Draxian foot soldiers. Their reptilian forms glistened under the alien sun, their razor-sharp weapons raised. Ryan grinned. I'll take the ugly ones. Zyra smirked. They are all ugly. With a battle cry, the alien queen launched forward, her spear whirling through the air. Ryan followed, his pulse pounding as he dove into the fight. Blades clashed. Sparks flew. The battlefield erupted into pure chaos. Ryan ducked under a Draxian warrior's wild swing and delivered a bone-crushing punch to its chest. Not so tough, huh? A second enemy lunged at him, but before it could strike, Zyra's spear pierced its skull. She didn't even break stride. Ryan shot her a look. That was my kill. She flipped her spear effortlessly. You were too slow. Despite the danger, he laughed. Only Zyra could make a life-or-death battle feel like a competition, a desperate moment. But the Draxians were relentless. More ships landed, more enemies poured in. The warriors of Zyra's kingdom were strong, but they were being overwhelmed. Then, the Drexian warlord stepped forward. He was massive, towering over even Thyra. His dark armor pulsed with energy, and his glowing red eyes locked onto her. "I will take your head, Queen of Valkyrie," he snarled. Ryan stepped between them. "Sorry, but that head's taken." The warlord sneered. "A human dares stand against me." Ryan cracked his neck. Not just any human. He clenched his fists, activating the energy gauntlets Thyra had given him. They hummed to life with power. "I'm the father of the future king." With a battle cry, the warlord lunged. Victory at a cost. The fight was brutal. Every punch rattled Ryan's bones. Every attack from the warlord felt like being hit by a truck. But Ryan didn't back down. Thyra fought beside him, her movements swift and deadly. Together, they struck with perfect timing, their bond turning them into a force even the warlord couldn't withstand. Then, in a final desperate move, Thyra's spear sank deep into the warlord's chest. He roared, staggering before collapsing. The battlefield froze. The Drexian soldiers saw their leader fall and ran. The war was over. A new beginning. The days after the battle were a blur of rebuilding, celebrations, and unexpected peace talks. Ryan stood with Thyra on the palace balcony, overlooking their world. His arm was wrapped around her waist, his body still aching from the fight. "You did well," Thyra said softly. Ryan smirked. "I always do." She rolled her eyes but didn't pull away. Instead, she placed a hand on her stomach. "He fought with us today." Ryan looked down at her, warmth spreading through his chest. "Yeah, and he's got one hell of a mom." She met his gaze. "And a reckless, stubborn father." Ryan grinned. "You love it." Thyra sighed, but didn't deny it. For the first time in his life, Ryan wasn't just surviving. He had a home, a family, and no force in the universe would take that away from him.